Welcome, everyone. Just wanted to say thank you to the Northwestern family for a warm welcome to the search committee. We're here today to search for the next president for Northwestern State University. It's one of the most important things that we do as a board. My name is Sandra Woodley, and I'm the president of the University of Louisiana system, and I'm also the chair of the Northwestern State University Presidential Search. This is the first of two meetings that will happen today. And before we begin today's proceedings, I would like to mention that if any member of the public wishes to address the committee, he or she must complete a blue testimony information card and hand it to our staff member who's seated in the front, Jackie, there. You can give your questions to her. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and we will also entertain public comments at the beginning of Friday morning's meeting as well. As a courtesy to all, if you'll please turn off your cell phones, we would greatly appreciate that. And now, Erica, will you please call the roll?
Dr. Sandra Woodley.
Here.
Dr. Masimi Bizarri. Here. Mr. Edward Crawford.
Here.
Ms. Lola Donahoe. Dr. Kelly Faircloth. Mr. E. Gerald Hebert, Mr. Adam LaFord, Mr. Jimmy Long, Mr. Wayne Parker, Mr. Mark Romero, Mr. Carl Shetler, Mr. Robert Shreve, Mr. Winfred Seville, Mr. Joe Stamey, Ms. Kyla Winey. Here. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much, and I know we just called the roll, but I still think it would be helpful if we went around and had the search committee take a couple of minutes to introduce themselves to the group, and we'll start with Ms. Kyla Winey.
Hello everyone, my name is Kyla Winey. I'm the Student Government Association President here at Northwestern. I'm a senior mass communications major, and I'm from Lafayette, Louisiana.
I'm Massimo Bezzari. I'm professor of chemistry in the Scholars College. I'm here to represent the faculty as Faculty Senate President.
My name is Adam LaFour, and I'm from Nichols State. I am the UL System Student Board Member.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mark Romero. I'm originally from New Iberia, Louisiana, and sit on the system board and glad to be a part of this process.
Good morning.
Joe Stamey from Natchitoches. I'm president of the Northwestern Alumni Association.
I'm Lola Donahoe from Natchitoches, and I'm president of the Northwestern Foundation.
Let me note the microphones here. If you'll push the microphone when you wish to speak and then push the microphone off when you've completed. Sometimes there's a feedback if the microphones are on, and we'll just give a friendly reminder if we forget, which will probably be me. But keep everyone from having that feedback. Be sure to push it off when you're finished with your comments. At this time, we need to approve the minutes of the August 21st meeting. And may I have a motion and a second? And we need a vote. Would you call the roll? Dr. Missouri? Yes. Mr. Crawford?
Yes.
Dr. Faircloth? Yes. Mr. LaFour? Yes. Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Romero?
Yes.
Mr. Shreve?
Yes.
Mr. Seville?
Yes.
It is unanimous. Thank you very much. A little bit about the purpose of today's meeting. We are here to interview the first of 4 semifinalists. A little bit of background would be helpful. In May, the search committee began its work here on the campus with a business meeting that defined the scope of our work, a public hearing to gather input from campus and community and alumni on the qualities that you at Northwestern wanted to see in your new president. We took those qualifications, this group voted on those qualifications, and that is the input that we gave to the search consultants, R.H. Perry and Associates, to go out, advertise for the position, and also actively recruit qualified candidates. In all, there were 41 applications, of which the search firm provided the 12 most qualified candidates based on the criteria that this committee represented to them. And on the 21st, the committee met in Baton Rouge to review the applications and to select the 4 candidates that you will have the opportunity to interact with today. After a lot of thoughtful discussion, the committee unanimously decided to invite these 4 candidates to interview. Dr. Lisa Abney, Dr. James Henderson, and these are the 2 candidates that we will interact with today. Tomorrow, it will be Dr. Linda Rinker and Dr. Renva Watterson. These 4 candidates will meet during this day with several stakeholder groups over the next 2 days, in addition to also the public interviews that they'll have here in this auditorium in front of you all. Past presidential searches in the UL system has shown that these group meetings are really, really important to the committee's work because it allows us to get input from all of these stakeholder groups before deciding on Friday which of the candidates to recommend to the UL Board of Supervisors for a final vote. Now, there are lots of different ways for you to provide input. You can participate in the process. You're encouraged, as I said earlier, to complete a comment card. You can anonymously provide reflections that will be shared only with the committee. Also, any member of the public can provide feedback to the committee either publicly at the meetings or via email. We have a website where you can also provide input. Members of the audience will be able to submit questions to be addressed by the candidates during this public interview today, and we certainly do encourage any thoughts or questions that you have during this process. Do any members of the committee have a question before we begin? Are there any public comments at this time?
Dr. Woodley, we have one request for public comment from Mike Newton, who is a member of the community, and he has 3 minutes. So, Mr. Newton.
Sure.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak this morning, and I also appreciate the fact that you are meeting on the campus again. Thank you for your service. My comments relate to athletics at NSU. I think it's important, and I think the university has consistently shown that they put academics first, as it should be, and the athletic area has shown that they have put academics first. It's ranked high among the state, the Southland Conference, and also among the national leaders as far as the NCAA surveys. So I think academics is definitely a priority in the athletic area. But I also think that the athletic area enhances the college experience for our students. I think it's a huge deal. It makes a huge impact on the student, and it makes a huge impact on our community. It makes our community a better place to live. I feel like that it is important, and one of the questions I have for Dr. Henderson is what his feelings are about the athletic area and what he will do to continue to promote athletics at the university along with academics, but to push the athletic area to continue to excel as it has in the past. So those are my comments. I would just like to have some input from him related to the athletic area. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there others? Dr. Hughes? Okay. Now, before we begin our interview process with Dr. James Henderson, I would like to share with you the framework for today's interviews. Dr. Henderson will be given the opportunity to provide an opening statement. He'll introduce his wife, and after that, the search committee will ask whatever questions that they have. Once those questions have been exhausted from the search committee, Dr. Carla Hughes may address questions to the candidate that have been submitted by you, the audience. If any member of the audience would like to submit a question to be considered during this part of the interview, if you'll fill out a yellow card and give that to her sometime over the next several minutes, then there's a Northwestern student helper or directly to our staff here that can take your yellow card if you have a question, should we have time at the end for as many as possible to be also asked of the candidate. We do have a tight schedule today. We want to entertain both candidates, and we want those candidates to have an ample opportunity to interact with the other stakeholder groups. So again, we'll do as many of the questions as possible. Now, following the public interview, this committee will enter into executive session to further have dialogue with the candidate. And once Dr. Henderson has been interviewed and his executive session has concluded, we will return back and recess until the 1:30 interview this afternoon with Dr. Abney. At this time, I would like to invite Dr. James Henderson and his wife, Tanya, to the table. Dr. Henderson was named the 5th Chancellor of Bossier Parish Community College in 2009. His leadership under Bossier Parish Community College has become a national model for educational leaders and has ranked in the top 5 fastest growing community colleges in the nation for 3 consecutive years, with enrollment almost doubling between 2008 and 2013. Dr. Henderson has led the college vision in becoming a consumer-driven institution. He has also overseen and led new program development and growth by focusing on employment sectors with the highest demand, such as nursing, allied health, oil and gas technology, cybersecurity, construction management, advanced manufacturing, and also engineering. Instrumental in luring Bittler Steel, Tube of Germany to Shreveport-Bossier, Dr. Henderson currently serves as the chairman of the Bossier Chamber of Commerce, chairman of Step Forward, and a member of the numerous local and state boards. Prior to becoming the Chancellor of Bossier Parish Community College, Dr. Henderson was the Senior Vice President for Workforce and Economic Development at the Louisiana Community and Technical System. He has a Bachelor of Arts degree in journalism from this institution, Northwestern State, a Master of Science in Human Performance Technology from the University of West Florida, and a Doctor of Management from the University of Maryland. He has also completed the Institute for Management at Harvard Graduate School of Education. He and his wife, Tanya, most importantly, have 3 wonderful children, Reagan, Nicholas, and Alexander. Thank you very much, Dr. Henderson and Tanya, for joining us, and please take the opportunity to introduce your wife and have a few comments.
Thank you so much for the introduction. And what an honor it is to be back on this campus. It's changed a little bit over the last 20-something years. But we are delighted to be here by far the better part of this partnership. My wife, Tanya Henderson. I met Tanya my first week on campus, walking down a hallway. My father had said, you need to come down to Natchitoches, finish your degree, meet a Cajun girl, and get married. And I said, well, Dad, I don't know that there's any Cajun girls at Northwestern. Well, the first one I met was Tanya East. And I had a hard time asking her out for a date because I kept looking for EAST in the directory. And she's an ISTRE East from Gaydon, Louisiana. And I would like for Tanya to say hello to everybody.
Well, good morning. We're really excited to be back on this beautiful campus. As Jim mentioned, I am from Gaydon, real small town in South Louisiana. I'm actually the 5th of 6 children, but the first to attend college. Growing up, I didn't know if college would even be an option for me until I met a Northwestern recruiter at my high school. He convinced me to come and visit the campus, find out more about what Northwestern had to offer. I still remember the day that my parents and I drove through the gates. It was breathtaking. The campus is beautiful, it's charming. There's so much history here, and the atmosphere was warm and friendly. I was later awarded a presidential scholarship in student work study. I worked for a while under Mr. Fleming Thomas in the Watson Library, and then later the telecommunications department, because I was a journalism major. I was an active member of Tri Sigma sorority. And like Jim said, it was on this very campus that I met my best friend and husband of 21 years. So Northwestern prepared me for a wonderful, rewarding career in sales and marketing. And when we look back, we have wonderful memories of our time here in Natchitoches. It would be an honor to return home and serve this community and this wonderful university. So thank you. We appreciate you allowing us to be here today.
What Tanya doesn't tell you is that she is a student that graduated in 7 semesters without summer school, was an honors graduate. I took a more circuitous route to my degree with her assistance, but I think the two of us represent really the diversity in those paths that so many students at this institution take on the way to their degree. I think that Northwestern is better positioned to be the premier teaching university, regional university in the South, and it would be our honor to be a part of that leadership team that helps it realize that vision. So thank you very much for this opportunity, Dr. Woodley.
Well, let's go ahead and start with the questions. I think we should start with our student member, Adam LaFoy. Please ask the first question. I caught him off guard. So let me ask the first one while you're looking at your question. And by the way, the opportunity to spend some time with you over the past 6 months, I think, has been rewarding. I got to know Dr. Henderson when we were working through the WISE details, and I found a lot to be impressed by during that time. And to that end, as we look at the Workforce and Innovation for a Stronger Economy, the WISE legislation that unanimously passed, there's a lot of challenges in that. But, from Bossier Parish Community College and now looking at Northwestern, what possible value can come from that legislation, and what do you see as kind of the major strategies that you've had to think about at Bossier Parish Community Colleges, and what would you have to think about if you came to Northwestern?
Thank you for that question, and that was a great process that 4 systems embarked upon together to come up with a way to take in relative terms, a very small amount of money and apply it in a strategic fashion to achieve some tremendous outcomes. These have been very difficult times for higher education in the last 5 years in the state of Louisiana. We've seen precipitous drops in state funding for education, and at the same time, we've seen institutions shift from being primarily state funded to being student funded. That's created a lot of challenges for universities and colleges. But it's also created an opportunity for us all to become more consumer-driven in our mindsets and our operations, much more strategic in our offerings, much more strategic in our service delivery. And I think that at the end of the day, that's going to be one of the great things that comes from that. I think WISE is the next element, the next piece of that puzzle that continues to push our institutions to being very market responsive, being very consumer-driven. When you look at this regional economy, it's not unlike a lot of the others in the state where we have some primary industry sectors that are driving growth and driving innovation. And I think those align well, not only with the programs that we have at Bossier Parish Community College, but certainly the strengths of this institution. Computer science is huge, industrial technology, engineering technology. The manufacturing renaissance in this area continues to pick up pace as represented by the $900 million investment at the Port of Shreveport-Bossier by Bentler Steel. The cultural economy continues to be a huge driver, and it's one that sometimes we overlook as we start looking just at data in terms of workforce development. That cultural economy is such an important piece of what we do. But it requires some core competencies that cut across those sectors, and those core competencies are critical thinking, problem solving, and effective communication. When you have an institution that's devoted to learning and teaching, those core competencies are embedded in every type of program that we offer. So when we develop a WISE plan to address some of these key sectors, it's important that we don't lose sight of those core competencies as we create programs and deliver programs that are delivering skill sets that make students competitive and give the employers in this region a competitive advantage based in talent.
So you don't think you have to choose between critical thinking and job training?
I think that if you make that choice, it's a false choice, and you're doing a disservice not only to the students but to the employers.
Very good. Thank you. All right, Adam, are you ready?
Yeah. Why Northwestern? Why did you decide to apply?
That's a wonderful question. Bossier Parish Community College has been the joy of a lifetime for me. We love everything about the school. It's poised for growth. It's poised for continued innovation. It's got a dedicated team of faculty and staff that are truly committed to the prospect of delivering education and improving lives of students. The community of Bossier has embraced us. I'm originally from Shreveport. You think there's just a Red River that divides Shreveport and Bossier, but that Red River is wider than the Pacific Ocean in some respects in terms of culture. They've embraced us as part of that community, and we have a wonderful life there. there are few, if any, jobs that would be even of interest to us at this time. But the one that would lure us away from that life is Northwestern State University for several reasons. One, it's where our foundation for success came. I think that there are three probably very critical stages that you go through in your formation. Getting married is certainly significant. Having children is significant. But your experience in college shapes who you're going to be for the rest of your life. And we could not have had a sounder foundation for our futures and our successes than the educations and experiences we enjoyed here at Northwestern State University. I think Northwestern is poised for excellence. It has 130 years of tradition and heritage, but yet it is poised to be a modern 21st century leader in the delivery of instruction to students. It has the potential to be, I think, the premier regional university in the South. So that opportunity, coupled with our own personal experiences with Northwestern, makes this a very attractive place for us to be, to spend the next 10, 20 years of our careers advancing this institution, working with the faculty and staff, students and stakeholders, and helping it realize that vision. Yes, sir.
Good morning, Dr. Henderson.
Good morning,
Pleasure
sir.
to meet you. As representative of the Faculty Senate President, I'm asking questions that have been submitted and sort of seem to have some commonalities in their subject matter. Sure. One of the questions that I have that has been raised on several occasions, and I'm going to make this open-ended, but it relates to the facts presented in your application that you seem to have most of your experience at the community college level, excuse me, and there does not seem also to be much information regarding your experience as a faculty member. So would you please comment on those two things?
Sure. Yeah, a lot of my experience, there's a common thread that goes through it. It's about taking organizations and helping them realize their potential. The common thread between my private sector experience, my experience at the Louisiana Workforce Commission, Louisiana Department of Labor, Louisiana Community and Technical College System, and Bossier Parish Community College is the successes were always founded on crafting a very compelling vision that the members of the organization could rally behind and take ownership in and deliver at a very high level. In each of those areas of my experience, we have far exceeded any expectations of stakeholders. And there's that same basic foundation of an organization exists here at Northwestern, even to a greater degree. It's really about the people and working collaboratively to craft a vision for what you want to be and then executing it in cooperation with each other. And so I think that those skill sets translate very well. Also, the Bossier Parish Community College is a teaching college. It's at its base level, it's about delivering instruction, and that's one of the things that separates Northwestern, I think, from other types of institutions that might have a focus on research or focus on other elements of higher education. Is this is truly a teaching university, and I think there's a great translation that happens between those two activities. And we've worked very closely with regional universities to create partnerships. And I think that makes that transition much easier than it might have been. And you're correct, I've never been a full-time faculty member. In fact, I was the only member of my family that did not go into education. Both of my parents dedicated their lives to education. My father at Caddo Parish Schools, my mother at Caddo Parish Schools, and then here at Northwestern. Both of my brothers are teachers and coaches. And when I was in the private sector, you know, it was Christmas parties, we would always have a debate over who was having a more tremendous impact. I finally caught the bug, and I understood the value and the reward that you get from working in an educational environment. But when I was in a policy position at LCTCS, Louisiana Community Technical College System, we would use jargon and we would use buzzwords and we would use great phrases that would try to capture what we were doing as institutions in moving the needle for the state of Louisiana in terms of workforce and economic development, improving the lives of students. But I didn't fully understand the magnitude of that until I was on a college campus. And I could see students face to face and watch the transformation that occurs from their first day on campus until they walk across the stage with a degree. I didn't understand fully the faculty role in that transformation and how faculty hold that transformation that's sacred and have dedicated their careers to managing that transformation and making it one of value for the students. And as such, I started teaching on campus. And I don't pretend that it's the same as having a full-time faculty load. It's not even close. But I teach a course every semester because there is no greater experience than that connection that you have in direct delivery of instruction to students, and watch them over the course of a 16-week semester or a 4-week mini semester or an 8-week semester, whatever it is, watching that transformation of that student as they gain new knowledge, skills, and ability and develop as people. I think the faculty are the bedrock of the institution. You start with students. The next most important part of an institution is its faculty, because they're the ones that govern that relationship between who a student was and who a student is going to be for the rest of their lives. And I think it is something that my record shows that I've valued very, very important.
Our athletics department plays a key role here in the overall makeup of Northwestern State. So what are your thoughts about how to balance the priorities of academics and athletics at the same, at a university?
I think athletics is vitally important. I hope that Coach Thomas took the blueprint that LSU gave him on how to beat Sam Houston this last weekend. He showed him exactly how to do it. You just get a bunch of guys that weigh 240 pounds and run 4.4 second 40s, and you just demolish a team. And I hope he'll follow suit with that. Athletics is great. Athletics captures the spirit of an institution. It is something that brings external stakeholders to campus who may not have an interest. It provides student athletes a great learning experience in how to work as part of a team in order to accomplish common goals. I think it's a vital part of an institution. We have athletics at Bossier Parish Community College. We have up until when I arrived, we had baseball, softball, and men's basketball. For some reason, we didn't have women's basketball, which I thought was just an egregious oversight. And so we added a women's basketball program. And we created an approach to athletics that says this endeavor is going to add value to the broad student experience on this campus. It's got to be. It can't solely be about what happens on the court, what happens on the field. It's got to add value to the student experience. And so we've taken steps to do that. We've made the academic progress of our athletes the highest priority so that they become leaders in the classroom as well as outside of the classroom. And we have created a spirit on the campus so that we're receiving a benefit beyond just what happens in those athletic endeavors. But there is a balance because we have a finite amount of resources. And it's that common scarcity equation. You have unlimited wants, but very, very limited resources. And as you approach something like athletics, it's very easy to say, okay, if you're funding this, you must be funding at the expense of something else. And so it's very important that you have conversations about what the return is on that investment. And I think the return is quite high in athletics. But it also adds to that need for the leader of an organization like a university or a college to also be an advocate for that college so that you're bringing in the resources that are necessary so that you're able to achieve excellence in athletics without having an expense on the academic side of the operation. It's a very, very important balance to strike. It's one that I found that you can do if you're willing to accept that challenge.
Thank you. Ms. Lola Donovan?
Sure. That's a great question. In fact, I think on job descriptions of college presidents today, almost at the top has got to be relationship building and fundraising. That's an important part of the operation. It's something that I've taken on at my college. We recently launched the quiet portion of our first capital campaign in the history. And to put the numbers in perspective, it's a little different when you do capital campaigns for community college. Our alums are not nearly as prosperous as all of the alums from Northwestern State University. But it's important that you craft a message that's very compelling, that tells those in philanthropic circles that this is a worthwhile use of my resources. And the president or the chancellor of the institution is the one who has to deliver that message, and deliver it continually. Deliver it in direct opportunities when you're dealing one-on-one with a potential investor, but deliver it to broad audiences to ensure that you're crafting a brand around your institution that's worthy of somebody's investment. And that's proven very successful for us. We set an initial goal for our first capital campaign of $10 million. We started 6 months ago in preparation to lead to that. We're going to have a public announcement of that campaign. It's not today, so please keep this to yourselves. Just us friends. But when we launch that campaign, we'll be able to launch it with 70% of our goal already attained. It's been a significant accomplishment for our community colleges, probably unprecedented among community colleges in Louisiana. But it's part of this broader role of the president to represent an institution and to represent the office of the president. So I draw a distinction between the office of the president and the occupant. The occupant is someone who's constantly aspiring to the level of respect and dignity that is inherent in the office. And as doing such, you have to be a champion for the university, constantly advocating for it, not for the university's sake, but for the sake of the students that you serve, for the faculty and staff that are members of that university, and for its alums. I think one of the most important things a president can do is add value to the degrees of those who have already come through the university. The value of our degrees is dependent upon what Northwestern does today, and that's a role that I would take very, very seriously. Thank you.
Mr. Joe Stamey.
Thank you. Dr. Henderson, the Alumni Association has had the opportunity to consult with Dr. William Muse, who's a Northwestern graduate, but also the former president of Auburn University, and as well as Akron University and East Carolina University, a long distinguished career as a university president. And we were most interested in asking him and seeking his guidance and advice as to what's important for today's university president in terms of their background and their preparation for the job. And he said without a doubt that management experience is paramount. And if you're not a good manager, you're not going to be successful as a university president. Would you share with us, please, your background, your educational background in management, as well as your experience in management?
Sure. I have spent, my undergraduate degree was in journalism. And in journalism, the most important thing that we learned is how to communicate effectively. My graduate work was all in management, about human performance, about how to take these organizations that are so dependent upon that main factor production, which is, in old terms, labor, and utilizing that resource to its maximum potential. When you couple the two, there's a real marriage that happens between being able to effectively communicate with a group of people that have a stake in the success of your organization, and crafting a vision and delivering that vision through a message that's so compelling that every member of the organization owns that vision, and every member of the organization wants to struggle to achieve that vision. That's really the secret of management. There's financial acumen that comes into play, and certainly in the world that we live in higher education today, financial acumen is important. But it's really about serving that servant leader role that says to people, you know what, this is who we want to be. We've decided this is who we want to be, and together we're going to be that. When you're effective at doing that, you achieve levels of performance that far exceed what even the organization itself thought it could be. When I arrived at Bossier Parish Community College, it's situated in a wonderful part, growing region of the state on a beautiful campus, state-of-the-art campus. It had a reputation for doing things right, doing things on time. It also happened to be the only community college in the state that was declining in enrollment. And so when I walked in, I thought this is going to be quite a struggle to understand why this is. And it's a problem that affects a lot of organizations. When you have people that are very dedicated to the organization, but they lose sight of the vision. They're so captured by the day-to-day operation that you miss opportunities, or you fail to to modernize your approach. You failed to take what I would consider a very conceptual idea of the institution, what it's going to be. They lose sight of the why. They're so focused on the how, they don't have time to think about the why. We brought new perspective to the table. Not new perspective from outside, but the perspective of a talent-rich group of faculty and staff that are in the middle and the lower parts of the organization. And collectively, we crafted this vision. And I remember distinctly when we were moving in, one of my next-door neighbor actually works at the institution. He says, I know that since you're here, we're finally going to break 5,000 students. They had been trying for 10 years to hit 5,000 students. And I said, well, that's your problem. You need to be at 10,000 students. If you're going to solve the problems of the Shreveport-Bossier community, if you're going to meet the demands of the employers in this regional economy, and you're not just going to meet them, you're going to give them a competitive advantage that's based in talent, 10,000 is the minimum. I didn't realize how small a community it was until a few hours later I get a call from my dad who lives in South Shreveport. He says, you're really stirring things up there. I said, what do you mean? He goes, you're going to put 10,000 students in that school? It took a course of 2 hours for that to go from Northeast Bossier to Southwest Shreveport. But it was really about elevating their vision. So first semester we hit 5,400 students, and now we're approaching 9,000 students. There'll be at 10,000 students next year. That number in and of itself is meaningless. But what it is, it's an indication of an institution that says, you know what, we're going to be responsive to the needs of students and the needs of this regional economy. And when they adopt that vision, then they're able to then exceed any reasonable expectations. As rich as that opportunity was to do that, to realize that vision at Bossier Parish Community College, it's no comparison to the opportunity and the potential that exists at Northwestern State University to revolutionize the way that a university delivers on that vision of being market responsive and serving students and empowering citizens to have a higher quality of life, giving a competitive advantage to our employers. I would be thrilled to help lead that conversation. Thank you.
Mr. Jimmy Long.
Dr. Henderson, as you know, this university has served a very rural, central Louisiana area for many years. It has been known statewide as an area of strength in education, nursing, and to a large degree, the many areas of the business department. Today, as time demanded changes throughout the state, what are your plans, or what do you consider the primary strengths of Northwestern today and its possibility for continued growth or expansion?
Well, Mr. Long, thank you so much for that question. I actually come to this answer not just from intuition, but from 5 years of working very closely with Northwestern State University in my role at Bossier Parish Community College. I'll tell you two tremendous strengths of this institution. First, the faculty. The faculty are dedicated to the mission of this institution. They're dedicated to quality, they're dedicated to students. And that's been a strength that I've seen that manifests itself in their willingness to collaborate. So that's really what distinguishes, I think, Northwestern from other institutions, is that every associate degree we offer at Bossier Parish Community College has a Northwestern State University bachelor's degree that's paired to it. The only way that you can achieve that is if you put the needs of organizations aside and you focus on the needs of students. And you have a faculty that's willing to do that. And the faculty has demonstrated time and time again at this university to do that. The other strength that Northwestern has is this rich heritage. 130 years of history, of transformation to become the university that they are today. That gives you the soundest of foundations to prepare for what's going to happen over the next 10, 20, 30 years in an ever-changing higher education landscape. You can never forget those learning experiences of the past that bring you to where you are today. And part of that past is the creation of programs that are truly world-class. You know, the educators in the public school system in my hometown of Shreveport, significant number of them got their formation at Northwestern State University. When you look at the nurses that work at Willis-Knighton, at Shumpert, at Rapides Medical Center, they got their formation through the nursing program, the world-class nursing program at Northwestern State University. Business leaders, business education from Northwestern State University. When you look at the alums from this university and you track their success, it's truly remarkable. And so that strength of history is what's going to prepare us for the inevitable changes that are going to come. And those changes are going to be dramatic, but they're changes that I think that we can face collaboratively with the faculty and staff at this university, with the input of students, and with the broad engagement of external stakeholders, both in the community of Natchitoches and this breadth of stakeholders we've got, all the way to North Carolina, to the former president of Auburn University. You've got this rich repository of wisdom that can help shape this forward. I think the potential for growth at this university is significant. I think that there are some local regional repositories of undeveloped talent that could benefit significantly from Northwestern. I think that there's some opportunities to brand the institution and carry a message to these students. That's been one of our successes at Bossier Parish Community College, is we built on the history but recreated the brand. And we were very conscious about that, very purposeful about we took that brand to high schools, to the adult population, and communicated that brand. But we also made communication to the external stakeholders very, very important. How did I do that? Well, the first thing I did is I gave our public relations office a performance metric. One performance metric in year one. How many column inches of newsprint did you earn for our institution? Well, that year they got 4,000 column inches of newsprint. The next year they got a 1/4 mile of newsprint. And it's about carrying the message, not for the sake of coverage, but for folks to become familiar with who we are. We've gotten more sophisticated in the way that we tracked our delivery of that information. Last year, we earned $2.1 million in earned media. That's telling the story. That's not money that we had to expend. That's coverage of who we are. That's about having a team of faculty that's willing to innovate and craft the foundation for these stories. It's about having a team that's willing to tell the story. It's about creating networks for people that want to channel that story. It's about using social media to make these stories go viral. We use social media to launch our open campus, which I think is one of the nation's most innovative approaches to delivering developmental education. Haven't spent the first dollar in advertising, and yet have had 14,000 students from 60 countries avail themselves of the Bossier Parish Community College open campus. There's this huge blue ocean of growth that's available for an institution that's willing to be strategic in its innovation and collaborative in its approach to execution. I think the brightest days for this institution are ahead of us, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Winsville.
Dr. Henderson, as president of Bossier Parish Community College and as a possible president of Northwestern, do you see an area of collaboration between these two institutions, should you be elected as president, and what areas would that be?
Yes, sir. I think that collaboration is absolutely essential between these two institutions and even broader. We've done a great deal of collaboration, especially in the last 5 years. We have a presence that predates me on this campus. It's Bossier Parish Community College at Northwestern State University. It was a extraordinarily innovative approach that was architect was my predecessor, Tom Carlton, and of course, Dr. Randy Webb here at Northwestern. And since this time, we've grown that presence on this campus so that it has become a very vital part of this campus. We've taken the steps to have our faculty sit at the table with Northwestern's faculty and ensure that our curriculum aligns across the board so that we're maximizing opportunities for students to transfer from one institution to the other. In fact, I have a number of students from my organizational behavior class that are at Northwestern now in nursing, in business, in criminal justice. And they made that transition because they said, we want to go to a university whose culture is as student-centered as your culture. I think there's so many similarities in our approach to the business of education that we've really only scratched the surface in terms of collaboration. I think Bossier Parish Community College can be serving 12 to 15,000 students. I think Northwestern State University should be serving 12 to 15,000 students. It's not something that we can do next year. It's probably not something we can do in 5 years, but it's something that we can put as a vision that's out there, saying, you know what, this is the stretch goal. This is where we need to be. And by collaborating with our partners, and not just partners at the community college system, there's partners in the University of Louisiana system that have to come to the table to work collaboratively, not for the sake of the institutions, but for the communities we serve. The Shreveport market is a perfect example. I have a dear friend who's the president of Louisiana Tech University, Les Geis. He is a fantastic leader, and he's doing tremendous things at that research university. I think the potentials of partnership between Louisiana Tech and Northwestern State University in meeting the needs of the Caddo Parish market, the Shreveport-Bossier market, are substantial. And I have the highest confidence that we will be able to work together to achieve that. If you look just to our south, in Rapides Parish, there's a number of opportunities there. You have a new community college that's just formed in central Louisiana that has a young leader that's trying to put together in a very difficult landscape a community college that is just yearning for support from a senior institution like Northwestern State University. It's another area of collaboration that we've got. We could go on for the rest of the day talking about the potential for that, but it's about putting the institution's interests as secondary and focusing on the needs of students and the needs of communities. And when you do that, the institutions themselves will flourish. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Wayne Parker?
Yes, sir. I would recommend that you read my dissertation. My dissertation is about the characteristics of the top management team in a market-responsive institution. And it applies what's called upper echelons theory. And I'm not going to get overly academic with this. But upper echelons theory says that you can look at the performance of an organization and trace it directly back to the characteristics of the top management team. That's absolutely essential. I did work with a number of different types of institutions and evaluating their top management teams and see if there was a correlation between who that team was and their level of performance, their responsiveness to the market, their culture, if you will, and found that those that had a very diverse, open top management team had a significantly higher level of performance and cohesion between the ideas of the top management team and those of the institution at large. Those that were very homogenous in their approach had exactly the opposite. They had one view of who their organization was that was completely in contrast to that of the organization at large. The 3 vice chancellors that I have at Bossier Parish Community College are the 3 vice chancellors I had when I arrived. They're great professionals. They were dedicated to the institution. They had a vested interest in that institution. They were invaluable to its moving forward in the management. But what we did is we added voices to that organization. We brought folks who had not had a voice in the organization to that top management team table so that we could hear their perspectives and understand exactly the challenges that they faced, and more importantly, the ideas that they have to move the organization forward. We looked at another part of that apparatus called the Planning Council, which was about a 30-person strong planning council that had not a single faculty voice at the table. We brought 24 faculty members to that planning council to add their voices, and we selected those faculty members from a couple of different categories. From their disciplines, we wanted a broad representation from the whole of our academic offerings. Their tenure at the organization, we wanted faculty members that had been there for 30 years, that had seen the organization grow, and we wanted faculty members that had been there for 30 days, that had been from other experiences and were coming in that had fresh ideas, that lacked probably the institutional knowledge, but could come in without a bias and could add to the conversation. Even went so far as bringing in a diversity in terms of psychometric profiles. We use what's called emergenetics that determines the way people prefer to think. We picked people that were not those that were known to cooperate all the time. We picked people that had dissenting views and different opinions. And we brought those voices to the table, and we found out there was a lot of commonality. We all wanted to go to the same place, and there was an immense opportunity for innovation if we would empower people on the how. We would be consistent on the why and the what, but you empower people to deliver on the how, and you'll be amazed at their ingenuity and innovation. That's really, people ask me all the time, what's the secret of success? What is it that I brought to the table? It wasn't me. All I did was remove the binds that were constricting an institution of dedicated professionals that was ready to explode. And that's what they've done. And it's been just a tremendous joy. Yes, sir. Yeah. Well, 5 years from now, I'd hope it would be, I hope you stay another 5 years. I hope that it would be that the institution has remained true to its heritage and to its values, and is yet transformed into an innovative, market-responsive, premier institution, an institution of first choice for students, an institution that's valued by the employer community, an institution that's valued by its peers as a model for excellence. Excellence in service to students, excellence in the delivery of instruction, excellence in responsiveness to its community. If we achieve those things, and I think that we can achieve those designations in 5 years, we'll be prepared for the next 10 to 20 years of the 21st century. That's really the essential elements that I'd hope to be known for. Yes, ma'am.
And that's no surprise to you or anything new for you, but there's no guarantee that we won't have difficult times going forward. Obviously, the weight of the financing of the institutions have shifted to the students from about a 1/3 student, 2/3 state to now that's flipped, about 2/3 students, 1/3 state. And in the midst of that, you have to keep trying to offer good programs. How do you deal with the prioritizing of your resources to make sure that in spite of maybe fewer resources, you can achieve at least what you have been or maybe even do more with them?
Yeah. You really hit on the great challenges facing higher education in the state of Louisiana. The year before I arrived at Bossier Parish Community College, 75% of the resources for that school came from the state of Louisiana. Last year, Bossier Parish Community College was one of 2 institutions in the state that was only 25% reliant on the state. That's even greater than the 2/3, 1/3 shift. The other institution was LSU A&M in Baton Rouge. Now they can raise ticket prices for $100 for a football game. We went up on our basketball tickets from $5 to $6. It didn't quite close the gap that we had.
You should have tried 7.
Yeah, but we had to make a decision. We had to decide, are we going to retrench and try to weather the storm and hope for brighter days and more state funding? Or are we going to take control of our future? Are we going to take control of our destiny? Are we going to create a responsive institution that realizes that now the consumer, the student, and the employer are bearing by far the burden of their education, and adopt our business model to be truly consumer-driven? Are we going to become a bastion of innovation? Are we going to allow faculty to be responsive to consumers the way that they want to be? And that's the decision that we made. We decided we were going to create programs that were responsive to the needs of the regional economy. And when you do that, you're amazed at the resources all of a sudden that materialize in forms of grants, in the forms of investment from the private sector. And so we created programs in nursing, created programs in occupational therapy, in oil and gas technology. You know, institutions aren't necessarily as in tune with the needs of their economies, but we understood that there was a need for oil and gas workforce development with the Haynesville Shale, right, and the 30-year supply of natural gas that we found. We realized that the manufacturing sector was undergoing a renaissance, and so we created the state-of-the-art mechatronics program with the help of Siemens Corporation. When Bentler Steel was looking for a place to locate, they were looking at 110 different cities. We brought them to Shreveport-Bossier. They came and sat in my office, and one-on-one, the president said, "Can you give me 675 skilled workers on the day that I open?" And I said, "Absolutely." He said, "No qualifications?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "Okay, what do you need from us?" I said, "A $22 million state-of-the-art advanced manufacturing center. I've got the talent. I've got the students that can move into that. I just need the capacity." And so we worked with a combination of private sector dollars, local dollars, state dollars, and we just opened the doors on the most advanced engineering technology center that exists on a community college campus in the country. It's going to meet the needs not only of Bentler Steel too, but the manufacturing sector and the industrial sector for the next 30 years. So when you start crafting programs and reaching out to these constituents that are going to benefit from those programs, it's amazing how resources start to come to the table. It's a different model than we're used to in higher education. Higher education for so long was a producer-driven enterprise. It's kind of like when Henry Ford created the Model T. Every one of them was black and there were no options. You need a car, this is the car you come buy. You look at the automotive industry today, it's truly consumer-driven. 2 years, GM will have a car that drives itself, right? It sparked this level of innovation and accountability to the consumer base. And that's a similar type of transition that higher education has to make. We have to understand who is the consumer, who is the investor in our product, give them a significant return, and all of a sudden you start seeing resources materialize from non-traditional locations.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Robert Shreve.
First off, like I said, your question very good related because I've not thought much about your experience as faculty. And I think as a good leader in companies who, into what you also brought up is very important, obviously, in representing, now you have $31 million. Now, I think we can solve the problems of all the schools with that $31 million you. But raising money is very important. The key to this is not being a faculty member, but understanding the asset value you have, so that you can, in fact, go out and promote that. So I thought your answer was very, very good in that field. The definition, if you ask a president 10 years ago, the spelling's the same. But I think the definition would be different 10 years ago than what it would be today. So my question to you, if you would give me your definition of leadership and the role that plays within, it would play within this university.
To me, a leader is someone that is able to craft a compelling vision so that the members of the organization want to struggle to achieve that vision. They have such a deep interest and ownership of that vision that it's their own. And that's truly what leadership is about. I consider myself a servant leader. I walk around and I talk to people and I try to find out how can I position you to do your job better. Because these folks, faculty and staff at higher education institutions aren't in those positions for the lucrative salaries that we pay. They're in these positions because they believe in the promise of education and they want to achieve things at an extraordinarily high level. The worst thing that a leader can be is an impediment to them to realize that. And so often that's what we become. And so, but if you're one that says that your job is to position folks to be able to achieve at a very, very high level and to remove the impediments that prevent them from doing that, well, that's a big step in the leadership equation. But you also can't get away from the accountability part because you are the person who occupies that office that's worthy of respect. You are the representative of the institution. And so you are the one that's ultimately accountable for everything that happens at that organization. I'm not a risk-averse person at all. I take great pride in understanding a significant accomplishment in the world of innovation has occurred on my campus, and I read about it in the newspaper. I have no problem with that whatsoever. That means that we're becoming who we can be, and I've lost complete control. No problem with that, because the control is the vision. The control is this idea that we're going to be something greater than we thought we could be, not for ourselves, but for our community. And to me, that's really the essence of leadership, and it's one that's proven to be effective, at least in my experience.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mark Romero.
Thank you.
Specific to Northwestern State, understanding that there are challenges that exist here in the financial what are your thoughts and ideas as it relates to addressing those, your experience in this area, and your strategy from outside, how you move forward to overcome some of the challenges that are somewhat unique versus control.
Sure. You know, Northwestern has experienced a significant shift in its financial resources, like most of higher education. And what's really problematic and sometimes gets lost is that the year before we started the budget cuts was the best year in funding for higher education the state has ever had. For the first time, the higher education funding formula was funded at 100% implementation. Great day for higher education. And then the next year is when we hit the cliff. And that created a number of challenges for organizations, and they took different approaches because of the different circumstances these institutions face. And Northwestern made a series of very important decisions to navigate that. And because of those decisions, Financially, I believe the organization is positioned for growth, for innovation. And I firmly believe that we have hit the bottom in terms of state resources. But if I'm wrong, I'm also in the position that it doesn't really matter as much as it used to, because we've gone through this transition, because we have decided that we have to be responsible for our own futures. This institution, because of the people that make up this institution and their dedication to this institution and the community at large, is positioned to operate in that kind of world where the consumer is your focus and is the source of the revenues that drive your operations. This institution is very well prepared for that. It took a lot of pain to get to this place. I know that as a witness from the outside, as an alum, and I've seen what people have gone through. But sometimes as a result of that, you're prepared then for a very bright future, and the future couldn't be brighter here. I think that my experience in financial management is appropriate going forward. I try not to let this out on my campus because people then will constantly come to me asking for information. I'm a bit of a data junkie. I have my own resources, a database, a query system that I use, and when I get to work in the mornings at 6 o'clock, between 6:30 to 8 o'clock, I'm looking at data. I'm looking at information, financial information, student information, success information, so that I don't spend the rest of the day reacting to that. And it also gives me the information I need, the intelligence that I need to govern the rest of the day. I think that financial acumen has an appropriate place to play here. But I think that if we focus too much on that, we lose sight of the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is taking control of our destiny and adopting a culture of growth and responsiveness. That takes care of a lot of the financial challenges that you're faced with.
Thank you. We've got about 15 or 10 minutes to take questions from the audience, should there be any. But before we do that, are there any follow-up questions from members of the board? Okay, Carla, do we have questions and comments from the crowd?
Dr. Woodley, and we have 10 questions from the audience and one question that was submitted to the system office directly. And because of the similarity of the questions, I am combining several of those. The first question that I would like to pose to Dr. Henderson comes from several alums as well as community members, and it relates to enrollment. Can you provide some insight as to how you have raised student enrollment and the expansions of your programs in your current position? And then the follow-up would be, how would you propose to do that should you become the president of Northwestern State?
Well, thank you very much. And I'm asked about the enrollment question all the time. And I apologize, but there's not one simple answer, right? It was a very comprehensive approach that said growth is going to be our priority. Again, not for an institution's sake, because it was necessary if we're going to serve the markets, if we're going to fulfill our mission. And so we looked at what were the needs of this regional economy. And we created programs that were aligned very closely with the demands of employers and the interests of students. We looked at what are the strengths that we have on our campus, what distinguishes us, what are our areas of excellence. And those areas of excellence were very clear. They were teaching, they were delivery of student services. And you combine those and you build on those strengths. And then you say, okay, then how do we get this message out? And I talked a little bit about our messaging strategy. We made that a priority, and so we started telling the story. We realized our brand had different messages, different meanings throughout the community, and not just different cities, different zip codes had different understandings of who our brand was. So we insisted on having brand integrity, brand consistency when we delivered that message. And then we realized that consumers are smart. They're going to choose an institution that's going to give them a pathway to a higher quality of life, a pathway to the goals that they want to realize either professionally or educationally, and that valued them when they were on campus. And so when you look at Northwestern State University, to me, the secret to growth is enhancing those elements of our culture that are already in place, that are very strong, and ensuring that people understand what those elements are. It means creating a quality of life for students that is greater than any similar experience at any similar university. You have to understand who your students are before you get there. So there's going to be a lot of conversations with these students about what is it that you want. Because the students are not the same as Tanya and I. Tanya worked in telecommunications, which was one of the great innovative operations in higher education at the time, where they would do satellite courses, and she would take the videotape, some of the students don't know what that is, but the videotape of the courses and drive them to Manny and Alexandria and different places so that their television stations could air the programming. That's just been a little over 20 years ago. And you think about how education has changed for students that we have not had firsthand experience with. So you've got to have conversations with those consumers. You've got to have conversations with the external community, with the employers in your community, and employers around the state that can benefit from the programs that we provide, and ensure that those programs are aligned very, very closely to what they need. That you're providing specifications for when a graduate comes out with a piece of paper that has Northwestern State University and the student's name, that credential has value. And when you do that, the consumer marketplace responds, and they respond in droves. I think the prospects for growth here are very significant.
Thank you. The next question is one that comes from an administrator here at NSU as well as a faculty member. And it really relates to the role of educating teachers, of which you just alluded to. And basically, they ask that since NSU was founded as the first institution in the state to provide a teacher preparation program and has done so for over 130 years, what would you do to dedicate the efforts to the enhancement of that role, considering the fact that we now have 29 teacher education preparation providers in the state? And then a follow-up to that would be, would there be any evaluation to reinstate a doctorate in education and one in human development?
Could there be more specificity to that question?
No.
You know, living in Caddo Parish and Bossier Parish and working with educators, so many of them got their foundation from Northwestern State University. It has been the model of excellence in teacher preparation, I think, amongst colleges nationwide. I'm a little prejudiced. My mother, when she came to Northwestern, taught in the teacher education department. I learned more about the National Council for the Accreditation of Teacher Education in junior high and high school than I ever wanted to know. And saw the angst that she went through in preparing for those types of visits, taking great pride in passage rates on an NTE exam, for example. I don't know of a more important role a university can have that has a teaching college than preparing the educators that are going to be training our future. I'm the president of Step Forward, which is what we call it a cradle to career initiative in Bossier, Shreveport, DeSoto, Bossier, Caddo, and DeSoto parishes, that is taking on this audacious goal of improving lives by improving that sequence of events that happens from when a child is born to their educational development through K through 12 system into colleges. That initiative has zero chance of success if you don't have quality educators in the classroom. Our future is pointless if we don't have quality educators in the classroom. And so the role of having a quality teacher education program is essential to this. It's part of our history. It's part of our future, a very important part of our future. In terms of adding specific degree programs, that's going to be a conversation that we have to have as a family. And to say, okay, what are the priorities that we have as an institution? And then selecting those programs that are going to best help us realize that future. I think that there's potentials for that. There's a number of doctoral programs in education that have already materialized that are, in my opinion, are a little bit broad. I think there's some opportunities to have some very specific, more laser-focused approaches to development of professionals, including at the doctoral level, and it's something I think we would have to entertain. With the blessing of our board, of course.
Thank you. And since you mentioned the lack of specificity, there was also a question about how you would help enhance the arts in teacher education preparation, so you can add that to your list, or you can respond to that if you would like.
I will just point something out. You know, you your career can help put you in a box and label you. And I've got a career in workforce and economic development. But my bachelor's degree was in journalism, where we learned the core competencies of effective communication, problem solving, and critical thinking, which are the essence of a liberal arts education. I think the arts are absolutely critical to our success. They add so much richness to our community, and they develop talent that can be successful in so many walks of life. I look at the theater graduates from our college. We have a world-renowned theater program at a community college. First time I went to a play at Bossier Parish Community College was on a Sunday in the summer, and I said, my gosh, this is the first thing I want to do today is go to a community college play. I was blown away. And I was walking out of the theater, I grabbed the director and I said, my gosh, are all of your productions that high quality? He says, no, we really tone it down for the summer. And I've seen what happens to individuals who develop through arts programming. I've become a board member for the Bossier Arts Council. I'm heavily involved in the Shreveport's arts community. I think the arts are essential if we're going to develop communities that are worth living in. So thank you for letting me talk.
Thank you, and I'll ask a last question. There is a growing concern about the lack of faculty salary increases over the past several years and the effect that this has had on both morale and retention of faculty. What would be your approach to evaluate this issue and address salary equity among faculty and staff, and how would you improve faculty retention?
Yeah, see, that's been a challenge for all of us in higher education. In fact, we were faced with several years where salary increases were not even legal. 3 years ago, there was one 3-day window when that was relaxed. And because of our growth and the increased resources that had come to Bossier Parish Community College, when that 3-day window opened, we jumped on it. We did across-the-board merit increases for our campus. We were the only college in the state that was able to do that. Dr. Woodley can attest to how pleasant this is. At the House Appropriations Committee meeting a couple months later, I took some lumps for that. But it was important. It was important not because a 4% raise for a community college faculty member that's making $30,000 a year, that didn't buy you a new car, right? It's not even, it's about the money. It's about conveying to people that their work is important. And their work is important. It's vital to organization. Faculty and staff that work in higher education in this state, especially at regional universities and community and technical colleges, are woefully undercompensated for the magnitude of the work that they do. And it's got to be a high priority. But also, when that's not possible, because of regulations or because of the reality of a finite amount of money, you've got to find ways to reward faculty and staff for their work that they do in other ways. And having an environment where they're seeing the fruits of their labor is very, very important. It's something that I take great pride in, expressing that appreciation to them. When I got to Bossier Parish Community College, I didn't know how we were going to make it, because this was a college that had a structural operating deficit before the first budget cut. And I walk in the door the day they announced a 20% budget cut. And so I'm sitting with this new expanded leadership team that includes faculty and staff, and I said, I don't know how we're going to make it. We're going to have to do some things that are very drastic. And one of the most senior faculty members raised his hand. He says, I like where you want us to go. I believe in it. Would it help you if we all taught a course for free? I said, yeah, that might help a little bit. For that first year, every faculty member on that campus, everyone taught a course for free without a single complaint. And it wasn't a dictate to come to my office. That would never be something that I would present as a solution. But they did that. Because of that move, because of their testament to me that they were dedicated to our prospect, I've spent the next 4 years ensuring that their quality of life on that campus was as high as it could be. We took the avenues we had, adjunct salaries for overload sections. We allowed our faculty to start teaching overloads. And we raised that up. Again, if you do it on an hourly basis, it's embarrassing. But at least it was an indication to them that we're willing to compensate them. We did some things in terms of office hours, where we relaxed these very strict, arbitrary standards and gave them standards about serving students and meeting with students and delivering on their mission, but put them in control of how they did that. That was a pretty rewarding step for them because they're professionals. And so in lieu of having the ability to increase salaries, we did some other things I think that were important and seized on the opportunity to increase salaries as soon as it materialized.
Thank you. Dr. Woodley?
Thank you very much. Pursuant to Louisiana Revised Statute 4217, this committee will now convene an executive session to discuss personnel matters with Dr. Henderson. While we are in executive session, of course, there will be no motions or votes taken. Is there a motion to go into executive session? Erica, can we please have a roll call?
Dr. Masimi Bizarri, Mr. Edward Crawford,
Yes.
Dr. Kelly Faircloth, Mr. Adam LaFleur, Mr. Jimmy Long, Mr. Wayne Parker, Mr. Mark Romero, Mr. Robert Shreve,
Yes.
Mr. Winfred Sabille. It is unanimous.
And we will all follow Jackie or someone to room 206, so we have to go out and take the elevator up.
I do, yeah. I don't think
Be there or be square.